keyboard joker, and everybody loses their minds. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 40 of the Differently Wired show. John probably just thought I had a little bit of a mental breakdown there. No, it's a reference. But anyways, I'll explain in a second.
Or a large bit.
Or a what bit?
Or a large bit instead of a little bit.
Oh, sure. That's all I do in life. Go big or go home, large bit, never small bit.
Perfect.
My name is Max Danger Derrat. It's good to be with you all again, your friendly neighborhood Simpsons again. And joining me as always, he is PhD. He is the man who put the O in Obrigado. He is... Wait, no. There's two O's in Obrigado. Okay, you put in the first O, I put in the last O. He is John Tucker. John, what's happening?
Hi, good evening, Max. I'm looking out at a pitch black night here. Winter's upon us in Canada land, and we're expecting snow around here tomorrow. That's nice. I'll appreciate summer even more.
Yeah. I was about to say, do you appreciate the snow?
I like all the weathers.
Oh, okay.
They have all their, joys to bring, even November. Yuck.
Well, yeah, November does typically suck, but just like because it is the 1 month between holidays, you have Halloween at the end of November, which is fun, but then you have to wait a whole month before December rolls around, and everybody loves December because it's the holidays. You get to see your family, obviously. It's the season of giving. But I'll just say this very quickly before we get into the usual house cleaning stuff and then the main crux of the show. November is actually going to be pretty awesome for me. As I was just telling John before the show, for the next week, I have my 1 week of vacation a year from my job. And the reason why is because coming out on November 8th is Hideo Kojima, peace be upon him, his new game. The guy who created Metal Gear Solid, Death Stranding, is releasing, and I plan on doing week-long coverage on the game, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Plus, I see Dr. Sleep on Friday, which is the sequel to The Shining. Wait, no, I see it on Thursday. Oh, tomorrow. Right. Yeah, tomorrow is Thursday. I get to see it in less than a day. And then I get to see Tool on November the 12th, so it's all looking pretty damn good. So looking forward to all that, but I'm looking forward even more to talking to you guys today about some of the good stuff that we have planned. But first of all, I just got to do the usual stuff. First of all, Facebook page, we have one. I'm sure you already know this. If you don't, go and like it. There's a link to it in the description box below. Discord server. We're almost at 800 members, which is pretty cool. Hey, John, just a little tiny request. Can you please just try to not shift things across your desk or anything?
I'll try, but sometimes I won't be successful at this try. Sometimes I'll actually move, and sometimes I might even breathe. Who knows?
Like I know it's tempting to play table hockey with like coins and stuff like that. I do it sometimes too when I'm bored, but I mean we're all live. He used to do this when we had sessions, but anyways, the Discord server, it's growing. We're almost at 800 members. We're always looking for more listeners in case you guys don't know what a listener is. Well, actually, no, we don't call it a listener anymore. We call the members of the support squadron. Thank you very much to Lord Galvatron for suggesting that name. If you guys are looking for mental health resources or just somebody to vent to about your problems, please feel free to join our Discord server at any time. There's a link to it in the description box below. Reach out to anybody that's in the support squadron and we will try to get you some help. Aside from that, it's just a lovely community. I love talking to everybody on there, moderators or just the plebs. No, I'm kidding. I love it. And if you want to be a part of a calm and friendly community, please think about joining. Also, I do have a Subscribestar account. As many of you may know, I did start it just over a month ago. If you want to support the Differently Wired show or support the other content that I produce on my main channel, please, maybe consider contributing $1 or $2. Depending on how much you contribute, you do get various rewards. There's a Minecraft server that we have set up. There's movie night. There's I'll talk about the after show in a second. You get 1 day early access to my videos before anybody else gets to see them, and a whole bunch of other goodies. So if you want to look at what we have offering, and if you think it's right for you, make sure you click on the link in the description box below, which will take you to the Subscribestar, my Subscribestar account. And then finally, I should probably get rid of that graphic. Well, there is an after show for the show. It's available to people who pitch in $2 a month on Subscribestar. So if you want to join me for an hour after the show just to talk about whatever's on your mind, if you just want to shoot the S, please don't demonetize me, YouTube. If you just want to chat, feel free to join us. It'll be at 8:10 when the after show starts. So we're actually going to take a little bit of a different approach to the show today. Normally, what we would do is we would start off with the main topic, and then we'd go into the mailbag. And if there's one or two other things after that, like we read an article, we usually leave that for the end of the show. For today, we're actually going to be switching things up a bit. We're going to leave the main topic towards the end of the show. Because I know there's a lot of you that have tuned in today because you wanted to hear my thoughts on Joker. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm just gonna give you my long overdue review of Joker. Then we're gonna go into the mailbag because we got a couple of mailbag questions today, and then we'll go into the main topic. So this is just gonna take the next few minutes. I have it written down. It just helps me to collect my thoughts a whole lot better. I'm not the best at speaking off the top of my head, which is weird because I do a show. But when it comes to stuff that I believe is important and I believe requires a lot more attention, I do like to write stuff down. So a lot of you have been asking me for my thoughts on something. I've seen you asking about it in the comments on my channel's community tab, on Twitter, and in my Discord server. And admittedly, these thoughts are long overdue. What did I think of the Joker? The movie that is based on the DC Comics character, the same name, the Batman villain. The movie released over a month ago, and you would think that I would do some type of review or analysis of this movie, right? After all, I've analyzed villains on my channel in the past. And some of those videos, like my one that I did on Thanos, of course being the Marvel villain, are some of my most popular. So why have I waited until now to talk about it? Well, I'll be honest. The first time I saw Joker, I wasn't entirely sure what I thought about it, which isn't usual. Like, normally I'm pretty certain when I see a movie whether I like it or hate it. Joker was completely not what I expected. I was expecting the origins of the type of Joker we saw Heath Ledger play in The Dark Knight. You know, who the man was before he became the brilliant criminal mastermind, right? And what we got instead weren't so much the origins of a criminal mastermind. If it was, the mastermind element wasn't the movie's focus whatsoever. Rather, it was an intimate character study of a broken man in a broken society going insane with little to no reference to the wider DC Comics canon. Because I got something I wasn't expecting, because this Joker was in some ways a departure from other interpretations of the Joker, I was sort of in a state of critical limbo about certain things in the movie. Did I not like something because it was the movie's failure, or were my expectations unfair? I didn't know. I had to wait until I saw the movie again before I could be certain. Well, I did see it again about a week ago, and I'm finally ready to say what I honestly thought. I loved it. This movie's great. It's a creative breath of fresh air for the comic book movie genre, and that air is made all the more fresh because of how immaculate this movie is in so many respects. Obviously, the acting from everybody is great. Joaquin Phoenix, who plays Joker, is going to win the Oscar. Mark my words, he will win. I can't imagine a better performance coming out this year. The cinematography was well thought out, in order to give the greatest detail whenever something brutal happens. The score, like everybody else describes it as haunting. It's kind of cliche to say it now because everybody else has said it, but if the boot fits, man, the cello in that movie, people who've seen it know what I'm talking about. It makes it feel like a demon has grabbed a hold of your spine and you're just waiting for them to snap it. That's just how much the music score contributes to what you're watching on the screen. I have a couple of other things I want to say about the movie, but I need to give a quick preface. One of the reasons I wanted to announce my thoughts about Joker on the Differently Wired show is because a major theme of the movie is mental illness. And obviously mental illness is a focal point of the show. There was some controversy surrounding this movie prior to and after its release regarding the movie's supposed connection of mental illness to violence. Some people thought that because Arthur, the character who becomes Joker, is mentally ill, and that the movie was suggesting that mental illness and violence share a sort of symbiotic connection. As somebody who has been diagnosed with mental illness and tries to advocate for those who also have mental illness, do I think that this movie was implying that connection? No. No, absolutely not. See, like with anything in life, almost nothing is that simple, right? There's always shades of gray. It's not the mental illness that drives Arthur to become Joker. It's the mental illness plus the fact that he has no mental health support, plus the fact that nobody reaches out to befriend him or lift him up, plus the brutal, unfair violence he suffers from random people in the streets. It's all these dark, twisted layers piling on top of each other, of which mental illness is only one factor. The best way I can explain this is think of Joker's mind like a Jackson Pollock painting. And what I probably should have did before I started this review is get a graphic of what a Jackson Pollock painting looks like. John, you know what a Jackson Pollock painting is, right?
I do indeed. It's multi-layered and many colors and wildly intricate.
Yeah, it's a bunch of random brush strokes and dribbles of paint, but it manages to look good in a way you can't explain. While trying to suggest that mental illness is what causes Joker to go and kill people, it's like pointing at a single dab of paint on a Jackson Pollock painting and saying that that dab is what makes the art piece brilliant. It's not just the mental illness, it's all these different factors coming together to produce a twisted psyche that actually might be best represented by something like a Jackson Pollock painting. A psyche that really can belong to anybody, regardless if they are mentally ill or not. Arthur is a broken man whose brokenness is reflected in the society that is crumbling around him. And it reflects a lot of the stuff that's going on in our society today. There's wealth inequality. People are being terrible to each other all the time. There's no social fabric to bring people together. I mean, more so in the film. No common goal. It's just all chaos. As for how that society fell into chaos, it's kind of the same thing for how Joker's mind fell into chaos. It's a slow progression of terrible things happening one after the other, which each factor playing an intrinsic role. Because Arthur lives in a Yes, I'm about to say live in a society, unironically. Because Arthur lives in a society that does not help him in any way, but rather antagonizes him at every possible opportunity. And on top of that, every beacon of light and positivity in his life has been taken away from him, a mind like Joker's will cling to whatever will provide him with a positive identity. Unfortunately, the one positive thing he was able to grab onto was chaos. And for anybody who has ever seen The Dark Knight, you know why he clings onto chaos. Because it's fair, right? You remember that scene in the hospital in The Dark Knight when Joker says, chaos is fair. I'm paraphrasing. But anyway, and like Joker, many of Gotham City's residents give into that chaos as well. If they don't see any way out of their circumstances, they cling on to whatever form of control they have. And like Joker, chaos is their control. Now, I'm almost done, but I want to conclude on this. One of the most brilliant elements of the movie is that in no way, at least in my opinion, but I think most people would agree with me, does the movie ever justify the actions of Joker or his acolytes? It never does. Just because things have gotten to this really dark, brutal place, that doesn't mean that murder or robbery or anything like that is ever justified. But what it does say is that if we are all going to live together in a society, whether or not that society thrives is the outcome of our collective decisions. Even if we're not the ones committing a future crime, we all have the ability to remove any possible excuses a criminal might use from committing a crime, whether that's something as complex as legislation or just being kind to your fellow man. We are all, to go back to the painting metaphor, we're all potential dabs and strokes on that proverbial painting. And the only way the painting works is if the lesser and greater elements can play their role and work in harmony. If the more vulnerable members of our society can't contribute, if they can't have their own positive identity, and the greater, well, not the greater, but like the more well-off elements, if they ignore the lesser, more vulnerable elements and deride them, if we don't allow them to be a dab on that painting, doesn't that mean that we are in some intangible way responsible? Maybe not criminally, but morally? I always say that a person's individual identity is far more important than one's collective identity. But one reason I say that is because the individual needs to be strong in order to help the collective they belong to. Right? That's sort of the point I'm getting at. To finish off, Joker is a monster, the character, but he's like an overly abused animal pushed into a corner. And the society that we choose to live in is responsible for that pushing. In a last-ditch effort to stay alive, it lashes out at the darkness encroaching in on him. For that reason and many other reasons, and just by portraying that basic metaphor, I think Joker is brilliant. I will do a more in-depth analysis when the movie comes out on home video in a couple of months. Don't worry, it'll be something like the Thanos video I did. So stay tuned for that. Anyways, my overall score, I give this movie like an 8.5 out of 10. I might move that up to a 9 upon repeat viewings because I really did enjoy it a whole lot more the second time I saw it. But for right now, it's an 8.5 out of 10, which is a great score. John, have you had any interest in seeing this movie?
Well, I am now very much more, because you've drawn a great metaphor for what society does to people in any case. And in my work, I haven't seen any jokers, but I've seen people driven to despair and ennui and desperate acts because of the way they are handled. And it's interesting how you weave his mind and his environment. I've often noticed that if a person is differently wired and they have a friendly, supportive, happy family, decent teachers, and so on and so forth, they come out as brilliant entrepreneurs or musicians or whatever. But if you put them in just the wrong environment where every hope is dashed, every dream is squashed, every motion is shut down, you can create all kinds of problems with people. So I love the essay that you've done, and I'm dying to see the movie now.
Yeah.
Well, not dying, but I would like to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you would find it invigorating, just given what you've dedicated your life to. Just the way the film sort of presents externally what is going on internally in this guy's mind. It's absolutely invigorating, and I think a lot of people that have gone to those dark places, a lot of differently wired people, will see some of that darkness reflected in the film and sort of feel like it understands them. And obviously, I'm not talking about any internal tendencies towards criminality, because the fact of the matter is, studies show that mentally ill people far and above are pacifists. They're not criminals, but it's just like the way that darkness wells up within you and makes you feel terribly. They'll see it reflected. So, have you guys? I know a lot of you have seen The Joker. I'd love to be able to continue this conversation with you in the comment section after we're done today's show. I can't wait to do a video on this in the future where I can go more in depth and just show how brilliant the movie actually is. Oh, and one thing I got to break to you guys also. John hasn't seen The Dark Knight, guys.
Sorry, it's pretty dark outside my office right now.
No, but like,
and it's nighttime.
But look, hey, but John, honestly, what I gotta say, The Dark Knight. You know what I mean by The Dark Knight, right?
I don't know. Is it a game? I don't know.
Oh no, it's you know what Batman is?
Yes.
Okay, well, Batman. Another name that he goes by is The Dark Knight. So it was a.
I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know that? Oh, okay. I feel so privileged in being able to introduce you to all this nerdy lingo.
Yeah, I'm delighted. Yeah.
You sound delighted.
Oh yeah, exquisitely delighted.
No, but seriously,
overwhelmingly delighted.
Oh, come on, John, throw me a bone here.
Okay.
Just not directly at my head. Now, the reason why I'm saying, like, talking about The Dark Knight, if you found that what I said about the Joker in this movie as being fascinating, there is a movie that came out about 10 years ago called The Dark Knight, and the Joker is also a villain in that movie. And it's also just equally captivating the way that character was presented in that movie, because Heath Ledger, the guy who portrayed him, actually got the Best Supporting Actor Oscar that year for that movie. So if you watch this movie and find it entertaining and it makes you think, I think you should also watch The Dark Knight as well. Okay.
Good idea.
All right. So with all that out of the way, like I said, we are going to jump right into the mailbag right after this, and then we'll go into the main topic after that. So, just as usual, I got to let you guys know how you can send in a mailbag question. It's very, very simple. All you have to do is send it to the email that you see on screen right now, which is maxderrat@yahoo.ca. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a question. It can be a story. You know, I've asked you guys to send in success stories in the past, preferably. I mean, like if you want to send in something that you're struggling with, like a story that happened to you in your past that you're trying to make sense of, we'd love to hear about that as well. Just make sure you send it to the email you see on screen. So what we're going to do, and John recommended that we do this, and I think it makes sense. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to read both of these emails back to back, because the second email sort of serves as an inadvertent response to the first email. So let's start off with Linecus. I think that's how you pronounce it. Please forgive me if I didn't do it correctly. But Line writes, "Hello, Max. For most people with rather strong anxiety, it is a challenge to find employment, to put it the least. But I certainly experience inability to do certain tasks, even if I try to, virtually all cognitive tasks, because of the concentration. This makes the employment issue even worse. All in all, the only thing which let me strive towards a job is the fear of starvation, more or less figurative, because I don't feel like any of the jobs left are meaningful or interesting. Of course, I can just bet on the unicorn job, which I have just not found yet, but it seems pathetic because I do it since years and I don't see any reason why it should suddenly turn around the day I am almost starved. I hope this is not too specific to be discussed in the stream, because of course it should address a range of people." That was the end of that email. I'm going to start the next one. The second one comes from Anonymous. "I started my own business and have been running it successfully by myself for 3 years, but I really think it sounds fancier than it really is. I left a warehouse job where they kept piling the pressure on me, and I was at my breaking point when I quit and started my own thing. And starting my own thing was kind of an act of desperation to be able to make a living on my own terms or as close as possible. I stumbled onto a tight-knit customer base that appreciate my over-honesty and attention to detail, and it has given me enough work to stay independent, but not quite enough to accomplish all that I'd like to. So I guess you could call it a success. Hey, there are neurotypicals that never start their own businesses, much less... Wait, let me read that last sentence again. Hey, there are neurotypicals that never start their own businesses, much less stay in business past the first year." And that was the end of that second email. So, yeah, like John said, that second email does serve as a sort of response to the first one in terms of the way that you can approach it. But I'm sure that John can sort of expand upon that a little bit more.
Sure. Well, I'm very impressed with the honesty of Linne's frustration with the work, and it's certainly not too specific to be discussed in the stream because lots of people face that issue of jobs that are not meaningful and not rewarding. And I've often referred to, and I'm using with a couple of clients now, that book, What Color is Your Parachute? If you are stuck and you don't know what you'd like to do, that book helps you shape your thinking and mind around what works for you. Now, everyone in the world probably should do work that works well for them. The thing is about being differently wired is it's really difficult not to do work that doesn't hold your attention and you're not passionate about. If you have, as Anonymous does, a strong attention to detail, being around sloppy work is going to make you crazy. You can't do it. It's just too horrible. And if people are trying to pressure you to do stuff their way, it's really, really, really hard. If you're sensitive, and lots of people who are differently wired are sensitive, and there's loud noises or bright, buzzy lights of fluorescence, you just can't be in that environment. There's lots of reasons for it not to work. So the other thing about organizations, and this gets at the need for social justice that we see expressed here. In organizations, there is a political way the organization is and a real way it is. And so you get winking and nudging and people saying, well, we do this way because we always did it this way. So you come in and you're honest and you say, why are you doing that this way? It's crazy. It takes twice as long. It's not efficient. It's unfair. but we always did it that way. This is the way, don't rock the boat. So this, if you're honest, and differently wired people are often very honest, that makes you crazy because they're doing things from habit or custom or to please the boss, or whatever. And in organization, you see these little glitches of unreal, unuseful practices, and it tears away at your sense of sense. Like one of the things that bugs me is, for instance, and in our environment, mostly people are mindful about recycling. But where I work, they throw all the recycling in the garbage, and they don't care what it is. And it's like a small point, I suppose, but it's irritating, to see all of these stuff in the wrong places. So there's a lot of reasons why organizations are hard if you're honest and if you have a good speculative mind. And why I like the juxtaposition of Linné's item and Anonymous's is he says, Anonymous, I say he, I don't know if he is a he, I'm not sure. But Anonymous says, I started my own business. And many of the people I meet in my line of work aren't happy with their organizations, trying to find the unicorn job, trying to find exactly the right job. There's these political undercurrents that go with the work, these understandings, these mores of the workplace or the inefficiencies. So really, you need to locate what you like to do. You might pull others in with you, but you've got to have a say in what you're doing. You can't just go work for people and be happy, unless you're very strong in some other way. You really need to design your future, taking control of it in some way. And it almost doesn't matter. You can do almost anything, and if you twist it the right way, you can turn it into work. You may like driving a lot. Well, that can be work. You may like watching movies a lot. People make money reviewing movies.
They do.
So they do, and sometimes do it. And editorials like Max, the thing you delivered about Joker, that's worth New York Times. It's beautiful. I mean, that article is beautiful. You should send a transcript into Harper's or New York Times or something. It's lovely. So, Linné, I would encourage you to identify what it is that you like to do, what you're good at, what you feel good at doing, and design your work life around that. Now, I know you don't want to starve, so you might have to keep plugging away at the McJob or whatever you're doing, but you need to start moving toward the thing that really ignites your passion. And to Anonymous, congratulations. You will probably get to do what you need to do. If you can stay independent, that's like gold. That's like everything.
That's the dream for differently wired people, and it seems like you've accomplished it, dude. Yeah. In regards to what you were saying about finding a job that you love to do, absolutely. Like you said, John, I am still sort of at like that minimum wage job, but the thing that makes it tolerable is the fact that I also get to do YouTube and I actually get to make some money doing it. Like what you were just saying about doing movie reviews. What I plan on doing after this is done is I plan on taking the segment of me talking about Joker during the show and making it a separate video. And because Joker is really hot right now, I hope that by putting out that video, a lot of people will watch it, and then because of the ad revenue, I'll get some money from doing it. And that's one way.
Well, I think we should forward it on to some people who would be interested in it separately. People in the business, maybe the producer of Joker, maybe people. No, seriously. I mean, it's a good review.
You mean Martin Scorsese?
Whatever.
Martin Scorsese produced the movie.
Well, there you go. Send it to Martin Scorsese. Why not? It's a good article. We'll find him.
Okay.
No problem. I think it's good work. And I've said to you before that I think you should be paid a ton of money for the fabulous work you do online. And I think that Joker segment was beautiful. It was delivered articulately, and it pointed out the Joker as a metaphor for modern society. It's really well done. And people who produced it, Martin Scorsese, people who do movie reviews, I think they'd appreciate it. No, I mean, I think you are actually doing the work you do right now. It's just not getting to the people with the cash.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind working at the New York Times. I wouldn't mind flipping that particular place on its head. But I get what you mean, John, and I really appreciate the kind words that you're saying.
Well, they're not just kind; they're my actual feeling
Right, right. Yeah, I
of
know.
what it should be. It's not about being kind. It's like your work, your editorial, your journalistic work is excellent.
Yeah, and I know you're being honest. Thank you so much. Point Creation sends in a $5 super chat. He says, "Hope you're having a great day and that you are enjoying your discussion." Yeah, I'm actually having a great day, and I'm actually in a pretty positive mood. I don't know if you were here since the beginning of the show, Point Curation, but got a great week lined up ahead of me. Oh, also, uh, John Nick Nicholson in the chat says John is a gem.
Oh, well, he's very insightful.
Yes, exactly. A very high IQ individual, and he
There you
is.
go.
And you know how I know that he is because he supports me on Patreon. Now that I'm just
There you go.
sorry, not Patreon, Subscribe the you get the point. All right. Before we move on to the main topic of the show, I just want to remind you guys there are 63 of you watching. That's a pretty good number for us, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I just want to remind you, please like the stream. Like John was just saying about the importance of sharing work. It is important to share my videos. That's oftentimes a more effective thing to help me out than going to support me on Subscribestar. Even though I appreciate that. But another thing that really helps me is if you do like the stream, because when you press the like button, it tells the YouTube algorithm that the content on this channel is worth watching. It puts it in people's recommended feeds, and who knows, there might be somebody out there that's struggling currently with mental health or autism or anything in regards to being differently wired. And if they see this pop up in their stream, it might help them out a lot. So please hit that like button and just smash it in the face. Just or whatever that bigger YouTubers say. Hit that like button in the face. All right. So with that out of the way, let's get into the main topic of the show. No particular reason that I chose this one. I had a list of potential topics that we could do for the Differently Wired show, and this was the next one on there. Online negativity. So this is one obviously that I think any YouTuber has experience with. I will give my experience with it in just a second, but I just sort of want to give a general overview. Actually, no. What I will start with, John, in regards to the people in your practice that you've talked to, yeah, I don't imagine you spend a whole lot of time on social media, but I imagine your clients do. Have they come to you complaining about some of the negativity they've experienced online, and have they said it's had a detrimental effect on their mental health? John?
Sorry, here I am,
It's okay.
unmuted. I know of a few cases where people have, run into trouble and, flamed. They used to call it flaming in the old days, one another, and then you can't seem to get back from it. It seems like once you start that process going, it ramps up and goes on and on and on. Who was the other day? Oh, yeah, there was a company I know of that apologized for something they needn't to have apologized for, and um, the far left and the far right went after them. So
Oh,
so then it was exponential. Uh, Anger had 7 league boots. It just went on and on and on. It made a terrible mess, and everything they did then in addressing this just made it worse and worse and worse. So what I learned in my work in media is that if you address nonsense, you will certainly have it smear all over you.
yeah.
So if you have something that bothers you, and you say to that somebody who said that something anything, then you've given them fuel to keep this energy going on forever. So it's not good to engage in that kind of stuff, if period. But anyway, usually for my folks, their problems are closer to home. So it's about relationship with parents, about relationship with spouses, or school relationships and that kind of stuff. I'd spend most of my time at that.
Okay, good.
The Yeah, the negativity, as far as parents are concerned, is people using this stuff too much. But people do hide behind their cell phones. They hide behind their social media. Sometimes they only connect up with people through social media. And for differently wired people, depending on your particular niche, it may be the saving grace. It may be the thing that gives you a key to getting involved in the world. So you can't really get offline, but we need to talk about, I guess, some strategies for reducing the impact of the negativity and so on and so forth. And I'm sort of encouraging people in the chat room to make suggestions of ways they have found to reduce the impact of negativity.
Yes,
Or,
absolutely.
yeah,
Just before we get into the thick of things, I just want to let people know what we will do closer towards the end of the show is we're actually going to bring the chat up on screen so you can see all your beautiful names and avatars. I see Lady Payne in there right now. I see Devin S, Josie M. Oh, by the way, Josie M, je vous ai envoyé un courriel. Hopefully you saw it. And it, anyways, well, we will put the chat up on screen later on. So if you have any thoughts that you want to offer in regards to this discussion, we'd love to hear from you. But what you just said there, John, about online spaces being either positive or negative for differently wired people, that's absolutely true. And I suppose what we could spend today discussing is trying to find a happy medium, primarily for people that are differently wired, because that is the focus of the show, but also for neurotypical people. So like you were just saying, on the positive side, obviously being online has been an enormous benefit for me. That's how I met my last girlfriend, who I was with for 2.5 years, and even though it ended, it was still a positive experience for me. Also, because of the stuff that I do on YouTube, I was able to meet all you beautiful people, the people that watch my videos, the people that I interact with on Discord. But then again, like, John was just alluding to, there are the negative aspects. See, because even in recent history, in the 1970s, there was crime, in the outside worlds prior to the internet age. But as surveillance has beefed up, people are able to respond to crimes a whole lot faster. Criminals aren't, or potential criminals aren't, as willing to act. So they're more than willing, if they need an outlet for that type of energy, they take it online, right? And I'm not just talking about criminals. I mean, like anybody that has urges to get out some negative feelings, but you can understand why you see a lot less inflammatory behavior in the outside world, but it all seems to be funneled online, because online you can be anonymous, right? It allows for a lack of accountability, and also because so many people in our part of the world are online, and a lot of people globally, we can have a direct link to them, right? So, like, whenever Donald Trump tweets something out, if you don't like Donald Trump, what you can do is you can go and message him on Twitter and tell him what a orange-faced buffoon he is, right? So people have a way of getting out their anger that way. But and in the moment it might be cathartic for you, but the problem is there's an accumulation of negative sentiment when so many people do that all the time. That's what makes Twitter such a cesspool. And yelling, it sort of goes back to what I was saying about Joker. Just engaging in that chaos, it gives us a sense of control.
Yeah, there's a very interesting interlaying connection between your Joker essay and what we're talking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
They sort of resonate with one another.
Yeah. So, in regards to how one deals with that, it's not so immediately obvious, because sometimes when somebody says something really mean, you want to try and reason with them, or other times you just find what they say to be so blasphemous and untrue. The only way that you can really respond is sort of like what I was saying about the dog that's backed into a corner. You can only lash out. So you have to sort of take a step back and figure out ways that you can try and avoid these negative situations. John, like, before I offer up some of my own, do you have any possible strategies that you think?
Well, yeah. One thought is, when you go online, actually, when you do anything, you should figure out how much control you have over events. If it if you go to watch race cars, you don't have any control over events. So if you're going to be upset when they crash or somebody wins, you're going to have a problem because you can't control any of it. And I think it was last week I talked about, for me, the key to happiness is only doing what I can do. So you can't control orange faced baboons or whatever they say or tweet. You can't do anything about that. You can turn them off. You can turn off Twitter. And as a couple of people have said in the podcast here or the live chat, you can ignore. So if you can't do anything about the news of the day, then don't entertain the news of the day. Get away from it. Go somewhere else. Now, so what promotes negativity is all your interactions being virtual, because then you've got this kind of aura of anonymity and maybe really having. So getting with real people will help reduce that. Otherwise, you tend to be isolated. So if passing the time with machines, if just to pass the time with looking at this, looking at that, fiddling with this, fiddling at that, you can lose your life doing that. So you need to mix stuff up.
Yeah, a couple of the things that you actually just said there were actually things I was going to say, like talking more so to people in real life than talking to people online. Because one thing I would recommend to people when they are talking to people online, if they want to have better interactions, if you're going to say something to somebody that might have been really critical or overly boisterous or cutting with their words, when you respond to them, think about it this way. It's the thing that you're going to say to that person something you would say to their face in real life.
Right.
And that's sort of the approach that I take to people for the most part online. So when it comes to my commenters, for the most part, I have a really high quality of commenter that comes to my channel for the most part. Excuse me. And the only time I actually would respond to people in such a vociferous way, and I would do it so simultaneously in real life, is if they were being like racist or something, or denying genocide or something terrible to that level. In that case, I would be salacious to them, or if they're obviously just doing it to try and provoke a reaction, I just ignore them. But if I sort of take that particular philosophy and I respond to the person as if I would respond to them in real life, what I do, and what I actually found is really, really worked, is I just respond to them calmly and constructively. I try to take what they say and try to point out to them logically and constructively where they might have been wrong in their assessment. Or if I think they are right about something, I ask them to expand upon it more because I'm open to it. And when I've done that, you guys, honestly, you would be so surprised that when I've done that to people that have been a little bit more cruel or nasty in their words, they'd say, "Wow, I wasn't actually expecting you to respond in such a way. I apologize," and then we actually have a nice discussion. It's actually possible on YouTube, as impossible as that may seem. Let's see, what else did you say, John? Oh, yeah, about not engaging. Like we've talked about this in the past. This is something that I struggle with a lot. Just being able to relinquish control in regards to certain things. But one thing that I have found that I have been able to relinquish control over is not just finding ways to not pay attention to it. So, for example, I used to follow a lot of political accounts on Twitter. I unfollowed all of them, even the people that I agree with, just because I find that those people, the people that have temperaments that can deal with that, just by following them all the time and seeing the Twitter flame wars, as you would put them, John, engaged with online all the time, it just brings you down, and you start to think that the way people are talking to each other online over politics might be like how people are to each other all the time, and it's not the case. And just by muting people's activity on Twitter and Facebook, I found that my ability to get on with my daily activities without, just wanting to stay in bed all day is just by unfollowing all those people and just following people that produce positive things, people that you like. I follow a lot of people that talk about video games. Who else do I follow on Twitter? I follow, let's see. It's like I read it every day, but then when it comes time to actually think about who are the people that I follow, let me just bring up my Well, I follow, like, my favorite YouTuber goes by the name Bash12349. I follow him. Let's see. But anyways, you get the point. I think that I highly encourage that people try that if they haven't already. Um, I'm just gonna take a sip of water. John, do you have anything else you want to suggest?
Sure, I want to look at it in a different kind of way. Each person listening now or listening later has the power to make something less negative in this way. Let's say you're walking down the street and you see a gum wrapper on the street. You can kick it aside or you can toss it in the garbage. When you do that, somebody will notice that, and that will remind them that they have the power to put something in the garbage as opposed to on the street. That's a very simple minded example, I know. But I've often noticed in my car, if I slow down and let somebody get ahead of me, or if I let somebody in traffic, it tends to kind of spread. Like positivity kind of spreads, just like negativity kind of spreads. So you have the power. And I would say your Discord channel is an example of that positivity spreading. You're not getting all that nonsense and flaming and stuff because it's designed a certain way to attract a certain kind of helpfulness in people. And everyone has the power to turn a conversation, whether it's virtual or on or face to face, in toward a positive direction. So you can use that power.
It's almost like you're reading my mind, John, because another one of the things that I wrote down as a way of dealing with online negativity is creating the positive communities for yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what, yeah, like you said, that's what I tried to do with my Discord server, and so far it's gone pretty swimmingly. I mean, like,
Yeah.
obviously you have one or two incidents here and there, but that goes for everything. Um, what? Oh yeah, the one other thing I sort of wanted to expand upon is the gum wrapper example that you just cited, or being stuck in traffic. It sort of goes back to what I was saying about Joker and how a community or a society's collective decisions are all intricately intertwined into what causes, like, what that society ultimately ends up as. Is it a positive community, kind of like a Metropolis in the DC comics, or is it a negative community, kind of like Gotham, like the one that Joker finds himself in? And it's just those little things that you do that you probably don't pay much attention to that really do have a positive impact. If you pick up a
Mm-hmm.
gum wrapper, somebody else sees that and they're like, hey, I could probably do something like that and feel real good about myself. Every little thing that you do has some sort of consequence. It might be very intangible, but it's there.
Yeah.
You know?
And it sets a direction and a tone and in a kind of an intentionality about doing good.
Absolutely. Let's see. I think, yeah, I pretty much gone through all my suggestions. Do you think we should bring up the chat now, John?
Yes, by all means. Now I have to go in, I don't know, about a minute.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'll just respond to a couple of questions and then
Yep.
we'll end the show. Let's bring this up. Let's see. Hello, Nicholson. Hello, Alex. Hello, Adil. Um, Adil says, I like Gotham. It has more character than Utopian Metropolis. Well, yeah, I agree with you there. Um, Devin S says, people need to take a chill pill and reflect on their actions. Yes, that pretty much summarizes the world as it is today. Board podcaster. The thing is, regardless of political affiliation or thoughts, every human has the capacity to communicate despite disagreeing. It's just people don't do it. They rather argue. Yeah, and it's just, I guess it sort of goes to the instinctual element of humanity. You'd think that
Yeah.
we'd.
That's a good point he is saying there. When you see that happening around you, you cannot control the others, but you can control you. If you're aggressively argumentative, you will help fan the flames of the disagreement, or you can be neutral, or you can be pleasant, or you can be positive. You have a choice. You can control how you respond.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, like it's sort of, as we were just talking about, how the lack of control that one feels can sort of cause one to sort of brood and spin in
Yes, yes,
darkness.
indeed.
One
Yes.
thing that you must always realize, and this goes back to Viktor Frankl's Timeless Wisdom, which you can find in Man's Search for Meaning, one of the most popular nonfiction books ever. He said that the one piece of control that all human beings always have is their ability to choose what attitude or what decision they'll make in any circumstance. That can never be taken away. So you should try and take solace in that. Anyways, John, like you said, you have to go.
I have to go. Yep.
Okay, well, thank you so much as always, John, for joining us. I'll wrap up the show. I'll just see if there's a couple other things that people have said, and then we'll take off.
Okay, I'll be signing out of Zoom.
Okay.
That means you'll be cut off unless you take over as host. I'm trying to see how you do that.
Oh, shoot. Well, do you want to just leave it? Like, is there a way you can leave it up, or do you have to?
I can mute everything and leave it up. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll be done in like 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, folks.
Thank you,
Bye.
John. Bye-bye. Okay. Let's see. Reading through the comments. I don't think it'll show up as me scrolling up the screen, trying to look at what other people have said. So sorry about that. Well, I'll just say this. Darth Eskar sends in this comment. What would you say about the topic in reference to something like gaming? People in the games I play target me a lot for unknown reason, and the best I can do is stop playing all the few games I enjoy. Well, what games are you playing? Like, are you playing games where you're constantly coming across the same group of people all the time? Like, I can see something like that happening in an MMORPG, but like if you're playing something like Call of Duty, you're constantly being matched with random people, right? I don't know, like maybe there's different ways that you can different games that offer you different experiences where you can find ways to play on your own and play with a better cast of people. That's why, for all the crap that GTA Online gets, and rightfully so in some respects, one of the things that I really like about it is it just offers you a bunch of different ways that you can play. You can be matchmade with random people, or you can play a whole bunch of different types of what's the word? Game types? Is that right? Yes, you can do that on your own or with some of your friends. The Bored Podcaster says, Max, I just noticed you were at 87.5k subs. That's great. Yeah, thanks, dude. Yeah, I did hit that today. Hopefully with the Death Stranding coverage, I can boost that up over to 90,000 in the coming weeks. And then when we reach 100,000, we'll have to do something collectively to celebrate. The Bored Podcaster says, I stopped playing games online because of the toxicity. This was over 10 years ago now. I only play games with friends or without a microphone. Yeah. Man, like some of the first-person shooters, like you play Call of Duty online, you do get a lot of 13-year-olds saying, racial epithets just for the sake of being shocking, and I agree with you. I don't like it either. If I do play a first-person shooter online like Halo, I just play with the microphone off, or I just play with my friends. It's too bad, but it is what it is. Let me just scroll up a bit, see if I can find a couple more comments, and then we'll call it a day. Emerald Queen, I watch wholesome family-friendly channels like yours or Canadian Guy A's. Yeah, Canadian Guy A's is actually a really good channel. You know what's interesting, Emerald Queen? I actually raced him on Crash Team Racing. He just popped up randomly in a matchmaking game that I was playing. I'm pretty sure that it was him. It's his name was Canadian Guy A, and when I went to his profile on the PS4, it seemed like it was the same guy. But yeah, he does really good content. By the way, I won't say who won that match. Actually, I will. I was this close. You have no idea how close I was to coming in first that one time I played with him, but he beat me by a thread. He's really good at that game. Let's see. Getting angry at a persona is like getting angry at an NPC in a game. That's what Nick Nicholson says. Or like an NPC in real life. I'm not sure if you're aware of the NPC meme, Nick, but it's like arguing with a wall. You can't. They don't have the cognitive faculties to be able to reason. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are just like that. Risky Business. Dude, I grew up in a COD 4 back in 2009. Was a culture shock, and those same kids are now adults 10 years later. None of it has changed. Yeah, unfortunately for some of them, that's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. I don't know what it is about COD. I guess it's just how there's such a much bigger competitive element to COD compared to other games. Its popularity, so like there's a greater chance that less ideal people are going to congregate around that community. Fallout 76 is a pretty great community if you enjoy online games. Well, I I can see that. because I can imagine the only people that play Fallout 76, they had to be the most patient people on the planet. Because from what I understand, Fallout 76 doesn't have the greatest reputation right now in terms of the online gaming community. Okay, I'll just take one or two more and then we'll be done. Zach Mann, what is your opinion on the black pill theory? Do you think that women only care about good-looking men? Is that what the black pill theory is? Because I don't know anything about it. But do you think that women only care about good-looking men? No, not at all. I think. Oh God, I don't want to open up a can of worms at the very end of this episode. I'll just say this: you can find general patterns in the way that men approach women and women approach men. But like with anything, it's a wide variety of factors. There are a lot of physically unattractive, at least in my opinion, men that have been able to snatch up really attractive women. And the reason why they were able to do that is because these men had a lot of other really great, outstanding qualities. A lot of them are really smart. They're really kind. They're really generous. They give back to their community. They engage in charity work. When I met my ex-girlfriend online, and she is an absolute bombshell. She works out like 5 times every week, like once every day. So that 5 out of 7 days in a week. Just absolutely flawless in terms of skin. I'm getting a little bit too specific, but yeah. And as for me, when I met her, I was just sort of bordering on being overweight according to BMI standards. I might not have looked overweight, but I did have some fat, and you can notice that. But she thought I was attractive. So I don't like to boil things down to really simple explanations. I try to look at the nuances and everything. Let's see, one more and then we'll quit. Nick Nicholson says, "Hey Max, I've sent in a question for the show, but I think we got it figured out more or less by now. Where did you send it to? Did you send it like in the last hour, Nick? Because I haven't had the chance to look at it." Risky Business says, "I play Rainbow Six now. Whole new level of toxic." Yeah, I guess. Alan Hoog, Discord me if you want to talk relationships. Trailer Trashers me on Discord, one of my favorite topics to discuss. Yeah, Trailer Trashers is actually one of the support squadron on my Discord. Thank you so much for volunteering to do that, Alan. You're an invaluable part of the community. I gotta cut it before I. Gestalt says, "What is your opinion on 4chan? What's the thing that Obi-Wan says about that one place in A New Hope? There's no other hive of scum and villainy like it in the entire galaxy." Anyways, that'll do it for tonight, guys. If you have any other questions, just leave them in the comment section when this show is uploaded. I'll be happy to engage with you there. Before you go, I just want to remind you, in case you haven't liked the stream yet, make sure to give it a like. There are 69 people watching right now, and there's 50. I'm a child. There's 59 likes. Let's see if we can try and rectify that. Aside from that, I just want to remind you one last time, if you have an email question that you want to send in at any time, question, story, whatever, make sure you send it in to maxderrat@yahoo.ca. Subscribe star link, Discord link in the description box below. And I think that's about it. We will do this again next week. And until next time, I just want to wish you all a happy Death Stranding week. To those people who will be playing it, I hope to engage with you guys about it later on. Oh, yeah, I should remind you. When Death Stranding comes out on Friday, I will be doing daily updates of my thoughts on the game. I might do like an update for like 4 or 5 days, and then I'll finish with the review. And also, I've created a separate account. I called it Max Playing, sort of a play on words with Max Payne, the Rockstar franchise, previously Remedy franchise. And I'm going to be uploading myself playing the game there. So I'll make sure to promote that for you guys, so you know where it is, and you can watch me if you're interested in that. Anyways, with all that out of the way, thanks so much, guys, and until next time, stay yellow.